Weekend after weekend, tens of thousands of cars line up to cross a 25-kilometer bridge, roughly 16 miles long, heading toward a tiny island that most people have never thought twice about. Behind them is one of the strictest countries on Earth, while just ahead lies the most relaxed corner of the Gulf. And that destination is Bahrain. At first glance, Bahrain resembles any other conservative Arab kingdom. Mosques, flowing robes, and prayers observed 5 times each day. Yet beneath that familiar image lies the Gulf's loosest liquor laws, a nightlife that continues well after dark, and 4 different religions existing side by side on the same streets. Back in 1932, Bahrain became the first place on the Arab side of the Gulf to discover oil. Yet today, those reserves are nearly exhausted. Still, the effortless, tax-free lifestyle you're about to witness rests on a reality that millions living here never truly benefit from. A kingdom that appears strict from the outside, yet enjoys more personal freedom than any of its neighbors. This is the Bahrain few people ever get to see. Few nicknames catch people off guard quite like this one. Both travelers and locals often describe Bahrain as the Las Vegas of the Arab world. Not because of casinos gambling is illegal here. Instead, the comparison comes from something entirely different. Bahrain is the one Gulf nation where you can step into a licensed bar, order a cold beer without drawing attention, and simply enjoy the moment. Alcohol is served openly in hotels, restaurants, and clubs, while most neighboring countries either prohibit it altogether or keep it under strict restrictions. At the center of this scene is a small district in the capital, Manama, better known as Block 338 in Adliya. During the day, the neighborhood feels calm, with art galleries, cafes, and restaurants lining its quiet streets. Once evening arrives, everything changes. Rooftop lounges begin to fill, live music drifts through the narrow lanes, and the bars remain lively well into the night. Take a look at the cars parked along the curb, and one detail immediately stands out. Row after row carries Saudi license plates. People don't arrive here by chance. They come because Bahrain provides a level of freedom that is difficult to find just across the border. Of course, that experience comes at a price. A couple of small beers and a simple plate of food can easily cost around $30. Look a little closer at the people of Bahrain, and a quiet code begins to reveal itself through their clothing. Men typically wear the white toba, a long, flowing robe, finished with a red and white checkered headscarf secured by a black cord. Women are most often seen wearing the traditional black abaya. What most outsiders never notice is this. Locals can often tell exactly which Gulf country a man comes from simply by the way his headscarf is folded. To discover the island's older soul, you make your way across to Muharraq. Muharraq remained the capital until 1932, and for generations it stood as the busiest pearling city in the entire Gulf. Walking through its narrow lanes feels like stepping into another era. Its 3.5-kilometer pearling path, lined with beautifully restored merchant houses, is now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Even today, family life continues to revolve around long-standing customs and traditions. A typical wedding may bring together 400 to 500 guests, with separate celebrations for men and women. Endless cups of Arabic coffee, towering displays of sweets, and a feast so generous it often requires more than one whole sheep. Yet, for a country smaller than New York City, Bahrain holds an astonishing depth of history. The island is home to 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites: the Pearling Path, the ancient Dilmun burial mounds, and the 5,000-year-old Bahrain Fort. Yet for many people arriving here on weekends, history, beauty, and even the cost are not the real attraction. Instead, what draws attention is how almost overnight the rules seem to loosen. There's a very specific reason this island has become the region's pressure relief valve, one powerful enough to keep traffic flowing across that bridge every single weekend. Known as the King Fahd Causeway, this bridge may be the Gulf's most important road that almost nobody talks about. It stretches around 25 kilometers, roughly 16 miles, across open water, connecting Bahrain directly with Saudi Arabia. Rather than a single bridge, it is a chain of 5 bridges linked by 7 man-made islands, first opening in 1986. On a typical day, tens of thousands of vehicles travel across it. But by Thursday afternoon, as the Gulf weekend begins, it can seem as though an entire country is suddenly on the move. In many ways, that's exactly what's happening. Saudi Arabia is easily Bahrain's largest source of visitors, and the drive from the Saudi capital Riyadh takes only about 4 hours. Every weekend, Saudis and Kuwaitis stream across the causeway in search of experiences their stricter, more conservative countries limit. Bars, live music, mixed crowds, and a more relaxed night out all draw them in. The locals even have a joke about it. They like to say that what happens in Bahrain stays in Bahrain. Some have even nicknamed the crossing the Johnny Walker Causeway, a playful reference to how quickly the atmosphere changes the moment you arrive. Yet alcohol is only the beginning of what makes this island feel unusually open. Its real appeal comes from several other qualities that make Bahrain unlike anywhere else in the Gulf. Imagine taking home almost every dollar you earn. In Bahrain, there is no personal income tax. There are no taxes on capital gains, inheritance, or dividends either. In other words, what you earn is largely what you keep, with only a modest 10% value-added tax applied to the goods and services you buy. For many Western workers accustomed to watching a large part of every paycheck disappear to taxes, that alone can feel like living on another planet. Skilled professionals often earn between about $2,000 and nearly $3,000 a month, and that income goes much further than many expect. Foreigners are also allowed to fully own businesses, purchase property, and even apply for long-term investor residency. Yet the appeal goes well beyond financial benefits. In a country where summer temperatures regularly climb above 45 degrees Celsius, or more than 113 degrees Fahrenheit, daily life is carefully designed to remove as much discomfort as possible. You simply move from an air-conditioned home to an air-conditioned car, then into an air-conditioned mall, spending barely any time in the intense heat. Pull up outside a cafe, and someone may come directly to your car to take your order. Need groceries or dinner? An app can have them delivered within the hour. Even fuel remains inexpensive by Western standards, costing around 55 cents per liter. After a while, a subtle change begins to happen. You gradually grow used to a lifestyle built around convenience. So now, I'm curious, where are you watching this video from? Let me know your city or country, and tell us what makes your hometown or country special to you. At first, you might assume every Gulf monarchy follows a single religion and a single rule book. Bahrain, however, quietly proves that assumption wrong. Take a walk through the capital, and within just a few minutes, you'll pass a mosque, a Hindu temple nearly 200 years old, a working synagogue, and the largest Catholic church anywhere on the Arabian Peninsula. That cathedral, Our Lady of Arabia, opened only recently and can accommodate about 2,300 worshippers. In 2022, Pope Francis personally flew in to visit, speaking to a Catholic community of roughly 160,000 people, most of them workers from the Philippines and India. Pause and think about that for a moment. In a region often defined by firm religious boundaries, this small island has allowed Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and Jews to pray side by side for generations. Christians alone account for roughly 10 to 12% of the population, and that spirit of openness reaches far beyond religion itself. The same openness appears elsewhere. Women in Bahrain have had access to formal education since the early 20th century, much earlier than many people realize. Today they drive lead companies and serve in government. This is not a country simply performing modernity for the cameras. Instead, this is a place where tolerance has deep and long-established roots. So how did one tiny island become this open, this wealthy, and this comfortable? To answer that question, you have to journey all the way down to the bottom of the sea. For centuries upon centuries, one shimmering word defined Bahrain above all else: pearls. Long before glass towers and modern skylines defined Bahrain, this island stood at the heart of the natural pearl trade, with its pearls sought after by the rich and powerful across continents. Yet behind that beauty lay a brutal reality. Pearl divers descended 15 to 20 meters underwater, around 50 to 60 feet, relying on a single breath that had to last for up to 2 minutes. There were no tanks, no masks, only a nose clip, a rope, and the constant risk of never reaching the surface again. Many were injured, while others never returned. To them, pearls were never luxury. They were simply survival. Then, in 1932, everything changed. Bahrain became the first place on the Arab side of the Gulf to discover oil, and the timing could hardly have been more remarkable. The global market for natural pearls had just collapsed, overwhelmed by inexpensive cultured pearls and a worldwide financial crisis. As one industry faded away, another burst from beneath the ground. Even so, that ancient past has never disappeared. It still hides in plain sight. Just beyond the city stand the Dilmun burial mounds, a UNESCO World Heritage Site containing roughly 11,700 ancient tombs built between 4,000 and 3,700 years ago. Together, they formed one of the largest burial grounds anywhere in the ancient world. But here's the twist that sets Bahrain apart. Its oil reserves began running low long before they were completely exhausted. And remarkably, the same sea that first made the island wealthy still holds a mystery that even modern science has yet to fully explain. Keep that in mind. One fact immediately sets Bahrain apart from nearly every other oil state. It has the smallest oil reserves anywhere in the Gulf. From the very beginning, this island was never sitting on an endless river of crude oil. Instead of pretending otherwise, Bahrain made a decision back in the 1970s that now looks almost visionary. While oil was still flowing, it began shifting its wealth into banking and finance, preparing well before the change became unavoidable. Today, that decision has completely reshaped the country. Bahrain is now one of the Middle East's leading financial hubs, home to hundreds of banks and financial institutions. The numbers speak for themselves. Around 84% of the country's economy now comes from outside the oil sector. Beyond finance, the island is also home to Alba Aluminium Bahrain, the largest aluminium smelter in the world on a single site, and the first ever built in the Middle East, dating all the way back to 1971. Then another milestone followed. In 2004, Bahrain hosted the first Formula One Grand Prix ever held in the Middle East, building a world-class racetrack in the middle of the desert to firmly place itself on the global map. Bahrain understood something long before many others did. Real power is not measured by what you're sitting on today. It's measured by how early you prepare for the day it eventually runs out. It almost sounds too good to be true, and once wealth begins to flow this easily, status no longer has to shout. It quietly reveals itself in ways you might never even notice. Unlike in many places, real wealth in Bahrain rarely puts itself on display. It simply doesn't need to. Instead, it reveals itself through quiet signals that most outsiders walk right past. Take oud, for example. Across the Gulf, and especially in Bahrain, it is part of everyday life, one of the world's most expensive natural fragrances, created from rare, resin-soaked wood. It's woven into daily life. People perfume their clothes with it, fill their homes with it, and the quality of that scent quietly tells everyone in the room exactly where they stand, without a single word being spoken. The same silent language appears in the license plates. In Bahrain, a short, low-number plate has become a status symbol all on its own. The fewer the digits, the greater the prestige, and the higher the price. Plates carrying just 1 or 2 digits have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, and a handful are believed to have fetched far more. Just think about that for a moment. Not a car, not a house, just a number on the bumper, purchased purely for what it quietly signals to the people who understand the code. Beneath the surface of everyday traffic, it's an entire language of status and power. Yet behind that effortless lifestyle lies another reality. Every comfortable life in Bahrain rests on something or someone that most visitors never stop to notice. And this is where the shine begins to crack. At first glance, stand in the center of Manama and everything seems the same. Everywhere you look, the same roads, the same skyline, the same easy rhythm seem to repeat themselves. Yet take a closer look, and the island quietly reveals two very different sides. More than half of Bahrain's roughly 1.7 million residents are not citizens. Most of them arrive from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and the Philippines, together making up around 77% of Bahrain's entire workforce. They build the towers, clean the malls, and keep everyday life moving behind the scenes. Through their eyes, Bahrain becomes a very different place. Many spend their days working outdoors, in temperatures that can rise beyond 45 and even 50 degrees Celsius, well over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Bahrain's own social insurance figures show that about 71% of foreign workers in the private sector earn less than 200 dinars each month, roughly $530. Some earn as little as 60 dinars, around $158, with much of that money sent straight home to support their families. Two people may live in the same building and walk the same streets, yet their futures can be very different. Citizens receive housing support, government subsidies, and priority for better-paying jobs. For most non-citizens, staying in Bahrain depends on a work contract and a sponsor. The line is not always easy to see, but it is always there. Still, change is beginning to happen. Even so, a newer flexi-permit system now allows some workers to change jobs or work without relying on a single sponsor. It is real progress, even though the gap is still far from closed. Perhaps that willingness to acknowledge both sides is its own quiet form of honesty. To see another side of Bahrain, head to the old market, the Manama Souq, entering through the landmark known as Bab al-Bahrain, the Gate of Bahrain. Built in 1949, it once stood beside the waterfront where trading ships unloaded their goods. Land reclamation has since pushed the shoreline farther away, leaving the gate standing in the middle of the city. A small reminder of the past, surrounded by the present. Inside the Souq naturally divides itself by trade. There is a street devoted to gold, another filled with spices, and narrow alleys lined with fabric and perfume shops. There is even a corner locals call Little India, reflecting the hundreds of thousands of Indian residents who make up the island's largest community. One rule guides the market above all else: you bargain. But the true heart of the Souq has always been its perfume. At the center of it all is oud, the resin from agarwood, one of the most expensive natural fragrances on earth, and the prices are almost hard to believe. Premium oud can sell for the equivalent of well over $27,000 per kilogram. The rarest variety, known as kinam, has been valued at nearly $10,000 per gram, while pure oud oil can reach $80,000 a liter. It truly is, as people here often say, more precious than gold. What impressed you most about Bahrain? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Next, we're about to explore one of the strangest phenomena you'll find anywhere in Bahrain. Back on the surface, one of the country's strangest sights stands alone in the middle of a bare, sun-scorched desert. It is a single tree, known simply as the Tree of Life. The tree stands nearly 10 meters tall, about 32 feet, and has survived for more than 400 years. What made it famous is surprisingly simple. There is no water anywhere near it. Not a river, not a lake, not even a spring nearby. Yet for more than 4 centuries, in one of the harshest environments on Earth, this tree has remained green and alive. For years, scientists have tried to explain exactly how it manages to survive. Some believe its roots reach a hidden underground stream. Others argue it draws moisture directly from the sea breeze. The truth, however, is that nobody knows for certain. Every year, around 50,000 visitors come simply to stand before it and wonder. To be fair, the tree doesn't stand in some untouched, lonely landscape. It is surrounded by oil and gas equipment and a low fence, so those dreamy photographs are a little more flattering than reality. Even so, the mystery itself is very real. It also suits the island perfectly, because the name Bahrain literally means 2 seas, a reference to the unusual fact that fresh water rises beneath the surrounding salt water. For generations, pearl divers spoke of fresh springs bubbling up from the seabed, allowing them to drink even while completely surrounded by the sea. And if a tree growing without water already seems impossible, wait until you discover what Bahrain deliberately placed on the bottom of the ocean. Yes, on purpose. Just off Bahrain's northern coast, you'll find an attraction unlike almost anything else on Earth. Known as Dive Bahrain, it is promoted as the world's largest underwater theme park, covering around 100,000 square meters of seabed. At the heart of it rests a real decommissioned Boeing 747, a 70-meter jumbo jet carefully stripped out before being deliberately sunk. More remarkably, it is the largest aircraft ever deliberately placed underwater. Divers drift through the same cabin where passengers once sat, passing an artificial reef and even a sunken replica of a traditional pearl merchant's house. It's both an underwater playground and a tribute to the island's rich history. If exploring underwater isn't quite your style, a short boat ride brings you to the Aldar Islands, where sandy beaches, jet skis, and banana boats are waiting. It's an easy escape from the city's relentless heat. Once you're back on land, another quiet local feature quickly catches your attention. Cats are everywhere. Bahrain's streets are home to communities of free-roaming cats, including the Arabian Mau, a breed that has lived across this region for centuries. They are fed, cared for, and looked after by volunteer rescue groups. Before long, those cats become one of the most unexpected and charming parts of the entire trip for many visitors. And once the adventure is over, Bahrain does what it has always done best. It welcomes you with its food. Like the island itself, Bahraini food reflects the old trade routes. In a single meal, you can taste influences from the Gulf, Persia, India, and even East Africa. The flavors are hearty, deeply spiced, yet rarely overpowering with heat. At the center of the table is makbous, the national dish, a fragrant serving of spiced rice with chicken or lamb. Weddings and major celebrations often feature huzi, a whole lamb, slow-roasted until the meat falls from the bone, served over rice with nuts and raisins. Breakfast may begin with balalit, a much-loved combination of sweet vermicelli noodles and savory egg on the same plate. Yet the real star of Bahraini desserts is halva. Glossy, sticky, and golden, it is scented with saffron and cardamom before being folded together with nuts. Some halva shops have prepared it exactly the same way, by hand, since the 1850s, stirring every batch over the heat for nearly an hour. Ask any local, and they'll tell you, halva is best enjoyed with a tiny cup of bitter Arabic coffee, where the sweetness and bitterness balance each other perfectly. A Bahraini wedding offers a glimpse of how tradition and celebration come together. The festivities are usually held separately, with one hall for men and another for women, each becoming a celebration of its own. Guests arrive by the hundreds, sometimes 400 or 500 at a single wedding, and many come simply to offer their congratulations before moving on. The food makes it clear this is no ordinary occasion. There is guzi, a whole lamb served over a mountain of spiced rice with nuts, a dish reserved for life's biggest celebrations. Trays of halva sit alongside crisp dumplings and savory pastries, while endless rounds of Arabic coffee are poured from the long-spouted pot known as a dala. Depending on the family, the cost of a wedding can range from a few thousand dinars to well into the tens of thousands. Yet wherever you go, the warm welcome never seems to change. Even today, a hearty local breakfast can cost around $20 for a table filled with food, and almost everyone speaks fluent English. That welcoming spirit is nothing new. It has been woven into the oldest part of the country, where the pearl divers once made their homes. Despite all its ancient history, Bahrain still loves to build toward the future. The clearest example is the Bahrain World Trade Center, completed in 2008. It became the first skyscraper on Earth to place wind turbines directly inside its design. Stretching between the two sail-shaped towers, 3 giant turbines are mounted on a series of connecting bridges, producing around 675 kilowatts of power together, enough to supply roughly 11 to 15% of the building's own electricity every single day. The towers themselves were carefully shaped to channel the Gulf wind directly into the spinning blades as efficiently as possible. Then, as this small island began running short of space, Bahrain responded by doing something truly dramatic. Instead of stopping there, it simply made more land. Through reclamation projects, Bahrain has expanded its territory by more than 10%, with entire financial districts and luxury neighborhoods now rising where open sea used to be. One of those new districts, Bahrain Bay, was designed by the same firm behind Dubai's Burj Khalifa. From the water came gleaming towers, waterfront promenades, and a glittering canal lined with restaurants. All of it conjured from what was once open sea. It is hard to believe all of this fits on an island you could drive across in under an hour. An island that, despite its size, quietly keeps the entire world by the throat. Believe it or not, you really can drive from one end of Bahrain to the other in less than an hour. It is one of the smallest countries in Asia, second only to the Maldives in size, made up of a few dozen natural islands, along with a scattering of man-made ones. Yet, despite its size, this little island occupies one of the most important locations on the planet. Right beside the island lies the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow stretch of water through which around 20% of the world's oil passes every single day, roughly 20 million barrels. If that vital passage were ever blocked, fuel prices across the globe would rise within hours. Bahrain sits directly beside one of the world's most critical shipping routes. Because of that strategic location, Bahrain has been home to the headquarters of the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet ever since 1995. From this small kingdom, naval operations extend across the Middle East and reach deep into the Indian Ocean every single day. It is a rare combination of strategic location, deep wealth, and a front-row seat to the world's energy, all packed onto a tiny island that you could easily overlook on a map. But once you look beyond the geopolitics and the wealth, one question still remains. What is it actually like to wake up here every single day? Speak to almost anyone who has lived here, and the first thing they usually mention is safety. Bahrain is consistently ranked among the safest places anywhere in the world. One story locals often tell is about leaving a car unlocked with a bag still inside, only to return and find everything exactly where they left it. That quiet sense of trust becomes part of everyday life, and visitors usually notice it almost immediately. Then, of course, there is the weather. And this is where the story changes. Summer can be relentless, with temperatures regularly climbing beyond 45 degrees Celsius, or over 113 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why so much of daily life shifts indoors. Winter, however, from December through February, is beautiful, with temperatures around 20 to 24 degrees Celsius in the low 70s degrees Fahrenheit, and rain falling only about 10 days each year. Getting around is surprisingly easy. The island isn't especially walkable, but ride-shares usually arrive within minutes, and renting a car can cost as little as a few dollars a day. Nearly everyone speaks both Arabic and English, so English alone will take you almost anywhere. For Bahraini citizens, free education and strong government support provide an even deeper sense of security. Strict on the surface, yet surprisingly free underneath, Bahrain simply refuses to be the country most people expect it to be. Perhaps the real question was never whether Bahrain is paradise at all. What truly matters is how completely different this island can appear, simply depending on where you happen to be standing when you experience it.